And then one day I was thinking, I was doing, it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who also has a business, and I was saying, I think we're not doing big cakes and big celebrations right now, but I'm at the point where I'm just celebrating anything.
Right.
And I said, like you lose your first tooth, and it's like you got to celebrate that stuff,
Yeah.
or you rode your bike without training wheels. We have to celebrate the small stuff. And he said, yeah, just like getting the laundry done. And something clicked, and I thought, that's where we're going to go. This
Yeah.
is the direction we're going to take, that every day there's something to celebrate.
Welcome to the Rooted in Community podcast. My name is Celia Coughlin-Surridge, and I'm here to bring authentic, community-focused conversations about online marketing to you on a bi-weekly basis. Let's face it, getting the word out about your nonprofit, service, or product is one of the first obstacles anyone faces when trying to grow their organization. Between all of the different social media platforms, opinions shared by influencers and podcasters, and the bells and whistles that are all screaming for your attention, a state of overwhelm seems right around the corner. Thankfully, it doesn't have to be that way. Grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and relax as we discuss online marketing tips, tricks, techniques, and strategies to grow your audience by providing value to those you serve. Thanksgiving is right around the corner, and with that, the topic of gratitude is often on people's minds. Personally, when I think of gratitude, I'm thinking, what am I grateful for? Who am I grateful for? Etc. It's natural to forget that gratitude is a business practice we all embody in some way, which we may not intentionally be weaving into our organizational values. That's why I thought Marlene Goetzeler of Freeport Bakery would be a great guest for this episode on gratitude. Having been a Sacramento staple for over 30 years, Freeport Bakery is known for its cakes and desserts that help us celebrate the moments that mean the most to us in life. With the pandemic of 2020 eliminating a huge portion of Freeport Bakery sales, Marlene had to find a way to pivot. In our interview, which is reminiscent of a How I Built This with Guy Raz NPR podcast episode, Marlene shares her story of starting Freeport Bakery with her husband and how gratitude in business is what has defined their success and will help them get through the pandemic crisis. Marlene, thank you so much for joining us today. It is a true honor to interview you, and I'm so grateful that you were willing to share your story and business knowledge with us. While I was preparing for our conversation today, I found out that the beginning of Freeport Bakery is really a love story between you and your husband. Walter, your husband, originally from Germany, walked into the bookstore you were working at looking for a map, and you happened to be looking for a German language tutor. Was it really truly love at first sight, or did you date a while before knowing you were meant to be?
Well, first, I want to thank you for inviting me. This is really fun. Um, I was looking for a German tutor because I wanted to win a scholarship in Frankfurt. And Walter came in the bakery. He was traveling the United States on a motorcycle, and he was looking for, actually, it was a book. And he wanted to send it to his parents to show him where he was because his parents were in Germany still.
Oh, okay.
So he asked if I could find the book, and I said it was out of print, but I'd look for him. And I said, you have an accent. Are you German? And he said, I am. And I said, I'm looking for a German tutor. Now, it's just so bizarre that he walked in that day, because that day I had said to my workmate, I need to find a German tutor, because at that time there was no Babelfish, or there weren't any really good tapes. Sorry about the dog.
You're
There weren't
okay.
any, there weren't any really great tapes or learning unless you went to school. And I had already tried the Berlitz tapes, but that was like, welcome, where's the restroom? Where's the library? So I needed to find a tutor. And I said to my workmate, I need to find a German tutor. And he walked in that day. So we talked a little bit. I asked him if he would tutor me, and he said he would. He didn't know what tutor meant because he didn't speak English very well. And we just started hanging out a little bit, and he was cooking, and he would bring me like fresh asparagus, and he'd say, do you want some asparagus? And I'd say, only if you would cook it for me. And little by little, we started falling in love.
Oh.
And that's how it happened.
Oh,
It was
it.
pretty lovely. Yeah. And so I never did apply for the scholarship, but I have been to Germany quite a few times. His English is fabulous. My German, not so much.
Oh, I love that story. It's amazing. And that's so you guys, I think, what is it, 1985 that you got married, is that correct?
1985. Yeah.
Great. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And so in 1987, you and Walter moved to Sacramento to purchase Freeport Bakery. And were you both specifically looking to purchase a business, or did this opportunity just happen to fall on your lap?
A little bit of both. We tried to open a bakery or look for a space in San Diego. And of course, it was the 80s, and it was impossible for us. We were broke kids, and we knew we couldn't do it there.
Mhm.
So I was visiting a friend in Sacramento, and we were reading the paper, and I always looked in the want ads because at that time people used the newspaper for things for sale. And I found Freeport Bakery was for sale, and I looked at it with my girlfriend, and I called Walter, and he came up, and he just said, we can't afford this. We can't do this. The previous owners were so kind and gave us a loan, and we borrowed $2,000 from my parents.
Oh, wow.
And we just decided, let's do it. And we drove up with it was a VW van. I think it was like a 71 or 81. It had duct tape on it. I mean, it was like we got turned down for a van loan so we could do deliveries. We had to save up cash to be able to buy it because the bank wouldn't give us a loan. But we did it. I mean, we started out pretty much with no money and a little bit of luck and lots of hard work, and we did it.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I mean, Freeport Bakery has really become a staple in the Sacramento region. And, family-owned businesses are few and far between these days. Are there any particular challenges that you have fielded as a husband and wife team during your career together?
Oh, absolutely. And I share this with as many people I know that are in business with family or husband, wife, spouse kind of thing. Walter and I ended up probably in the second year going to counseling.
Mm.
We had to learn to respect each other's space
Mm-hmm.
and made a decision who is responsible for what area. And that seemed like the only way that we could do it. And it took a little while, but it has helped so much over the past 30 plus years, because I know if I make a decision about something, if it's in my area, if he doesn't agree with me, we'll talk about it, but my decision stands. And it's the same way with him.
Mm-hmm.
And we really respect each other. It's hard sometimes. It's really hard when one of us does something that the other person thinks isn't the best decision.
Yeah.
But we've grown to respect each other enough that we just let it go. Otherwise,
Right.
I don't think you could actually make it, because
Mhm.
you'd always be angry at the other person.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I recommend it. I think it's really important for people to either have counseling or just do some deep diving into how strong your relationship is and what, excuse me, what your final goal is. And for us, our final goal was to be a happy married couple.
Yeah, which, if I am counting correctly, you're celebrating 35 years this year. Is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
You think so? When did you get married? What was the date?
Um, well, I think it was March 11th. You have to understand, we were really poor And we got married at the Justice of the Peace in Vista, California. And then we had to go back to work.
Oh my goodness.
So we stopped and had fish and chips at a restaurant on the beach and then went back to work.
I love
So
that.
it was, and to be in all honesty, Walter needed a green card to stay. You could cut this part out if you want, but
I love it.
we had to make a decision. Was he going to stay and legally,
Mhm.
or was he going to go back to Germany? And we decided he wanted to stay here with me and I wanted him to stay. So we got married. So we didn't really like have a big wedding or anything. And then 5 years on our 5th anniversary, we went to Hawaii and to a really special place and celebrated, because then we had enough money in the bank and we were able to take a vacation. So it was pretty awesome. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. I think that will actually stay in the podcast. I think people would love to hear that for sure. Well, as I've mentioned, I mean, Sacramento has come to love Freeport Bakery. I obviously can't talk about it enough. And you are such a great example of a community-focused organization. And you in particular, Marlene, are also known for not only being a phenomenal CEO, but also as someone who really embodies empathy and gratitude in all facets of your business. Could you share with us the most important ways a business owner can embrace their community and weave gratitude into their services and overall business model?
Wow, that's a big one.
Yes.
I think with me in the beginning, I was reading quite a few books on how to be kind of a service to my employees, rather than a boss.
Right.
And I've learned that my job is making their job easier. So my job is to encourage them, support them, do whatever I can to lead them, and so they can become really strong people themselves. And that's kind of how I've always done it. And I think we've had some phenomenal people come through our doors. And when they leave, it's always really sad. In fact, today someone's leaving after 7 years who was, really, really a wonderful employee. But it's time for her to move on. And we do it with grace and happiness that she's going to be pursuing something she loves. And it's okay. There will be another person to fill that spot. And I think keeping that as my main focus, that I'm there not only to be a boss, but to kind of teach them that they can be anything they want to be. Just because I've been given so many great gifts of people believing in me and potential, that I want to share that with them. And as far as the community, I mean, I just hope that they can go out into the world and make their community better. That's kind of how I look at it.
Right, exactly. It really is truly through a community-focused approach that I feel that you are able to really enjoy the benefits of what you're doing as a business owner. The more that you are giving back and the more that you are empathetic and thinking about the people that you're working with, the more it actually comes back to you. It's kind of like a constant cycle of gifting and being in gratitude and enjoying. And so it's like, I totally 100% get that and support that idea. Don't worry, we'll get back to the interview with Marlene in a moment. I just wanted to take a quick break to formally introduce my company and producer of this podcast, Modern Roots Marketing. Dedicated to simplifying digital and online marketing for community-focused small businesses and nonprofits, Modern Roots Marketing wants to help you reach more of the audience you're trying to attract. From consultation opportunities, workshops, courses, free resources, to one-on-one client work, we offer online marketing services at the price point you and your organization can afford. If you're looking to improve your online marketing presence, check us out at www.modernrootsmarketing.com and be sure to subscribe to our newsletter to receive a free gift. Now, let's get back to our interview. We all know COVID-19 has hit brick and mortar businesses hard. And I know Freeport Bakery is known for its celebratory cakes for weddings and special occasions. As these events have mainly been on pause this year, how have you pivoted?
Wow. Yeah, it's been quite a challenge. I have to admit that in the first month or so, I was terrified.
Mhm.
Um, we had kind of gotten to the place where we had hoped that we could step back a little bit from the business. I mean,
Mm.
we're open 7 days a week. We're on call 24/7 because there's always somebody at the bakery baking or decorating. And I just thought, well, maybe this will be the year that we could kind of step back and have some of our managers take the lead.
Right.
And boy, that just threw us for a loop. So we closed and then we decided let's just do online pickup.
Hmm.
And we went to that model and that worked. And then we slowly reopened with lots of protocol in place. And we were asking for masking way before it was demanding, and we lost a few customers. And but we just decided that we had to keep our staff protected. They were
Hmm.
taking a big chance by coming back to work,
Hmm.
and that was our goal, was to provide the community with wonderful baked items, but we had to be safe.
Right.
And then one day I was thinking, I was doing, it's funny. I was talking to a friend of mine who also has a business, and I was saying, I think we're not doing cakes and big celebrations right now, but I'm at the point where I'm just celebrating anything.
Right.
And he said, I said, like you lose your first tooth. And it's like you got to celebrate that stuff.
Yeah.
Or you rode your bike without training wheels. We have to celebrate the small stuff. And he said, yeah, just like getting the laundry done. And something clicked and I thought, that's where we're going to go. This
Yeah.
is the direction we're going to take. That every day there's something to celebrate. And
Hmm.
if you have to search for it, but it's there. There's something to be grateful for. There's something, we have roof over our heads, we have food in the refrigerator, we have gas in our car. It, everybody's suffering from the pandemic, and we just have to find little things to celebrate in life. And that's kind of what's carried us. And
Yeah.
we're getting busier. We've still lost all of that, big cake business, office parties. There aren't any, um, because nobody's really working in an office right now. A lot of remote workers,
Hmm.
and weddings that we had. So the first month and a half, we refunded everybody's order, and
Hmm.
we started going through our savings, and that's when I was pretty terrified. But I have faith that things will just, they might never go back to what normal was,
Right.
but we'll figure it out. We'll
Right.
figure it.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, that brought me to a question. I was looking at your Instagram and your website, and you actually have listed when every day is a celebration under your logo now. Has that always been your like motto or your mission statement, or is that fairly recent?
This is fairly recent. The first one was Fine American and European Baking. That was in
Oh.
1987. And we wanted people to know that not only were we baking torts and German pretzels, but we were also baking good, solid devil's food cake and
Mhm.
American baking. And then after a while, it was baking memories since 1987. We needed people to know we've been around a while. We're not going anywhere. We're stable. We bake we bake things that people remember. I mean, I have customers who come in and say, you did my daughter's first birthday cake, and she's going to college now. Then when the pandemic hit and I started thinking a lot about where we were going,
Mhm.
that's when I realized it's time to change who we are and what we represent. And I really believe that it's important for us to know that every day there's something to celebrate.
Yeah. Definitely. Well, and I'm just thumbing through your Instagram right now, and I just love the variety that I'm seeing. I mean, you even have a cake that looks like a tall stack of pancakes with butter and maple coming off the sides. That thing looks delicious. Oh my gosh. So, and I love your Halloween season too, I have to admit, was just so cute. The mummy cake, and then the witch fingers. And so you definitely are offering something at every price point too, which is important these days. So how did Halloween go for you this year? Did you feel like Halloween actually did better this year than previous years, or was it about the same?
It was phenomenal. It was a blast. I mean, it was just so much fun this year, and it was super busy. I think a lot of people were celebrating at home, having, very small, limited parties. Like
Mm-hmm.
the mummy cake, I think served 4 people,
Mm-hmm.
maybe 6 if you cut small pieces. And so it was just perfect enough. And if people did decide to have neighbors over and do some kind of safety measures, there were bigger cakes or cookies. It was just super fun, and it
Yeah.
was very, very busy.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's great. I'm so glad to hear that. Halloween's one of my favorites. So I'll remember that mummy cake for next year for sure.
One way we did pivot was that we're not doing those custom cakes right now, the ones that are the pancakes and
Hmm.
things like that. We found that it takes a lot of energy to process and do those orders,
Yeah.
and we just thought now's not the right time, so we're kind of sticking to basics,
Hmm.
and it seems to be fine. I think people are just happy and getting products that they love and cakes that they love, so I think we're gonna stick with that, and after the first of the year, we'll review
Right.
and decide what direction to go.
Right. I think a lot of businesses are kind of in that, like, okay, if we can keep a holding pattern going until the end of the year, we'll see what 2021 brings. And as we're actually recording this, we're still in the middle of trying to find out who the new president is. So I think everyone knows we are not getting any quick answers this year. That is, I think, the theme of 2020 is pivot and wait. It
Yes,
seems like.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, okay. You actually kind of hit a little bit on what was going to be my next question, which is could you share some of the more imaginative orders you've received so far? It seems like you're actually stepping away from that, and that's completely understandable. So let me go ahead and actually go to another question we had, which is we know that you give back as a member of organizations such as NABO, which is the women's organization here in Sacramento, and you share your expertise. Do you have any advice for new business owners or business women in particular?
Ooh, well, one of the responsibilities I had when I was the president of the Retail Bakers of America was talking to other bakeries and bakers, some just starting up, some trying to figure out which direction to go. And one of the first things I did was talk to a young woman who was opening up a bakery in outside of Seattle, and she was getting um, kind of hit up by every type of vendor. And I said, don't get your logo all over everything. Don't spend that money right now, which is kind of contrary to what everybody else says. We
Mhm.
still don't have cups with our name on them, 30 plus years later. I think it's really important to just do your product, do it well, and then slowly your logo's going to change. You're going to kind of transform yourself into a different type of business. And if you are, let's say, a printer, and you have things printed up that say, we print bags, cups, straws, and tablecloths.
Mhm.
And 3 months, 6 months, 8 months later, you decide, you know, it's not really a good idea to be doing straws. You're stuck with all this product that says you do straws.
Mhm.
So you have to be able to, um, I hate to use this word because it's so used, but you have to be able to pivot your business, especially when you're starting, and figure out who you want to be before you start telling people who you are.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people would disagree with me, but it's worked for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's worked for us.
I think you're absolutely right. I think one of the analogies that I've heard is that a business is literally like having a baby, because what you are at age 1 is totally different from age 5, 10, 15, 20, and so on and so forth. And so you're absolutely right. You have to be willing to grow. And especially in this era of online marketing and everything being so online facing, you're constantly having to ebb and flow based on what's going on, what you're doing as a business, what your competitors are doing. And so I think that's actually a really, really good tip. Thank you so much for sharing, Marlene. That brings us to kind of our last question of the interview, which is, do you have a post COVID-19 plan in place? Have you already started thinking about that? And what are you hoping to see in your future with Freeport Bakery?
Well, we do think a lot about what the next steps are. I'm in my 60s. My husband's in his 60s. It is a very labor intense business.
Mm-hmm.
We're growing our staff so they can probably take over a little bit more, and we can step back a little bit, maybe take a vacation once in a while.
Yeah.
um, but I think as far as the business goes, we're thinking about what type of desserts will we go back to doing custom cakes, or are we going to just stick to the plan that we're doing now?
Mm-hmm.
So those are the things we think about. Whether or not things will happen, we have no idea.
Right.
I have taken to that obnoxious term, "it is what it is," about 50 times a day. Like, I'll hear something and it's just like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I have no control or power over anything except my own happiness. And that's kind of where Walter and I both stand right now. We're just taking it day by day, doing the best we can right at the moment. And what tomorrow brings, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Marlene, thank you so much again for joining us today. I so appreciate you taking the time. I know that our listeners can follow you on Instagram at Freeport Bakery, but oh wait, I'm sorry. The username is actually at Freeport Bakery Weddings. But where else can our listeners can find you?
Actually, we have two Instagram sites. One of them is at Freeport Bakery, and the other one is for the wedding department to post some of their great pictures of wedding cakes that we do. And that's at Freeport Bakery Weddings.
Okay.
Also Facebook, Freeport Bakery, and our website, freeportbakery.com, which has just gotten a recent remake, and it's quite lovely, if I say so myself.
That's wonderful. Awesome. Well, I'll definitely be sure to check out more of it because I've been online. I'm going to have to purchase some new things, that's for sure. Some nice treats for family members. And once again, I just want to thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that very much you get some downtime this holiday season, but also that you stay safe and you enjoy a wonderful 2020 or
Thank
2021.
you. Yeah, right. Thank you so much for asking to do this. This was really kind of you, and I wish you the same as well.
Oh, thanks so much, Marlene. I appreciate that. This was such a fun interview with Marlene, and hopefully this conversation has sparked some ideas on how you can incorporate gratitude into your business practices. You can find out more about Marlene Goetzeler, Freeport Bakery, and the Rooted in Community podcast in our show notes, located at www.ricpodcast.com. The Rooted in Community podcast is published every 2 weeks, and we are so thankful that you've listened today. Be sure to subscribe on the podcast platform you're listening from and leave a review if you've enjoyed this episode. The Rooted in Community podcast is brought to you by Modern Roots Marketing, where we believe online marketing should be rooted in community.